reason that's important is because I was only 3 years old, but I could read it. I knew it said Kleenex, and that brought me so much joy that it did and that I could read it. And this box was at the end of a hallway in the back of a closet, and it's where we put our dirty clothes. And so I figured out that I could climb over one of the edges of that Kleenex box because it was sort of crumpled down, and I could get in the Kleenex box and cover myself with dirty clothes. And my sister said, "Gosh, what is Jeanie doing in there?" And what I thought is that if I got myself into the Kleenex box and covered myself with really dirty clothes, that no one would want to touch any dirty clothes in there and find me, so that I was safe. So my journey through my life has been how to figure out how to come out of the Kleenex box, how to come home to who I am, and how to participate in community. So this topic for me, beloved community, and finding beloved community from the heart, is really like I was thinking, wow, what a great title. I'm so glad you're talking about beloved community this month, because that's really what my journey has been. And so today, I want to share with you how I learned to do this. And I have a metaphor for this king that speaks about this. He kind of had the same dilemma that we have. And what this king did is he had this really very large and very prosperous kingdom. But one day he started thinking, I really haven't been all around my whole kingdom before. I don't know what it all looks like. I think I'll go for a walk and find out. So he did, and he walked, and he walked, and he walked, and he walked. And when he came back to his palace, he was really, really grumpy. And the reason that he was in such a bad mood was because the roads in his kingdom, a lot of them were really rough and bumpy, and they had a lot of rocks on them. And by the time he got back to the palace, his feet really hurt. So he called his servants and he said, "All right, I want you to get all the leather that you can find, and I want you to cover every single road in this kingdom with leather." Well, that would be kind of an astounding thing. That would take thousands of cows. We'd have, no telling, especially since we're not eating beef around here, that would really be not such a good thing. And so one of his servants, who was really bold, got up his courage and he said to the king, he said, "That's going to be quite a project, and it's going to cost a lot of money if we do that. So what if you just cut a couple of pieces of leather and put them on your feet, and that would protect your feet?" So just like that king, we all have rough and rocky parts in our life. And we have to find a way to come into our own shoes. We have to find a way to give meaning and purpose to our life, to make sense of the world and find a way that we can live in it. For me, that's been through my connection to my heart. And then, like the king, you might discover that you don't have to change the world. You don't have to cover it with leather. You can meet it as it is, but you can have tools and practices to change yourself, to give yourself leather so that you have a way to walk over all those rocky spots. So today I want to talk to you about 2 ways to get some leather. One is creating coherence, and the other is balancing your electromagnetic energy field. In my meditation this morning, what I did was help you to come into coherence. And coherence means where you put your breath and your heartbeat and your mind all in sync with each other. And that's just where heart rhythm meditation begins, to bring you to where your feet are, to bring you into this moment and help to give you a way to climb into your heart. And if you don't learn anything else from this talk today at all, if you practice that, you will have great results in stress reduction. And if you have anything wrong with your heart, we have studies that show how this can help your heart to heal. So to measure the changes that happen to people, this isn't just a statement that I made about that you can help to heal your physical heart. HeartMath has developed an instrument to help us measure that, to measure the degree of coherence on this. But they take this little bit of a turn. On theirs, in fact, we use the heart rate variability monitor, and there's a couple of people here who I've done this work with. When your heart is in coherence, you can see on this monitor that there's this nice, beautiful kind of roll. When you're out of coherence, or when you're learning how to move into coherence, you might see a lot of spikiness or some kind of choppiness in this. But the more that you put yourself into rhythm, the more this will smooth out. Something that HeartMath does that I really like, that I also included in my meditation, is that instead of working with your heartbeat, they have you think about your heart, and then you think about feelings like love, or compassion, or peace. You just think about those feelings. Or you think about a time when you felt really loving, or there was an experience that was a highlight of your life. When you think about those things, then your heart becomes coherent again. Your heart rhythm changes immediately when you do that. So creating coherence in yourself first, either by thinking of something positive or working with your breath and your heartbeat, that's how you put leather on your feet. And the second part is how you take your feet out into the world. I've heard around here, I've heard it said, I think it's been at this church that I heard, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. That's a quote from Rumi. Rumi didn't call it the electromagnetic field, but I think that's what he's referring to. This field is like gravity or electricity. You can't see it, no one can prove it, but you can feel its effects. Quantum physics studies this electromagnetic field, and when they assume that it exists and that it's there, they can make really accurate predictions about how the universe operates. If you're interested in this, I got really excited about a book by Greg Braden called The Divine Matrix. And the reason I got excited about it is because I understood it. These complex things about quantum physics were available and accessible to me. But instead of talking to you more about it, which I could, I'd like to give you an experience of it in this moment. So if you would rub your hands together like this, till you feel them get hot. So just put your focus on your hands. And some of you, they'll start to burn right away. Some of you, they may not burn at all. But if you rub your hands together and keep your focus there, and then begin to move them apart without touching, see if you feel something in between your hands. And I like it. One person's shaking her head, yes, that's a good cue. Or smiles let me know. So if you're not feeling anything, go ahead and rub your hands again if you want to. And this isn't a test, you don't have to feel this, but you could practice this. And what some of you are feeling between your hands is your chi, or your life force, or your electromagnetic field. And we generate these electromagnetic fields, all of life generates these electromagnetic fields. And so what they have discovered with HeartMath studies is that the heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in our whole body. In fact, it generates a field that's 5,000 times stronger than the electromagnetic field generated by our brain. I think that's a pretty astounding statistic. And so what happens to us with this electromagnetic field is that it can take all different kinds of shapes. And you have experienced this electromagnetic field, I bet, in other people. When someone is really angry or they're frustrated, you kind of go, and you might walk the other way. Maybe some of you confront it. I don't know, I do that. I go the other way because I can feel that kind of angst in them, and I just think, okay, and I let them have that and I go my way. But if someone has this really loving, welcoming, appreciative, accepting energy, you tend to want to be around them. or you feel safe. There's a kind of calmness to them. That actually is because of their electromagnetic field, so that your emotions can drive this field. So isn't it an amazing thing when you think about when you are upset about something, or when you're feeling out of balance? Wouldn't it be great if you had some tools that you could work with your electromagnetic field and figure out how to bring yourself back into balance? Babies are such a great example of how our hearts are when they're really balanced. You know, when you see a baby, their whole being lights up when they know you and they love you. They just blossom. They smile. Sometimes their legs and arms move. I have a new baby in my life, so I'm really aware of how they are. And so they are an example of like this radiant sun in their chest. And that's how it is when you really can move into this place of working with your electromagnetic field and balancing it. Puppies are like that too. They just come with their whole being. They just come to you. But our hearts get wounded. What happens for us is that we get holes in our heart. And it was so beautiful, Conrad's story today. I thought, wow, where did you get that story about wounds of the heart? It was a fantastic story for this, because that happens to all of us. We get wounds. And so these wounds can cause leaks in our heart, where it's like the electromagnetic energy can't build up around someone who pushes buttons that correspond to your wound. It also gives us distortions in how we respond to life. So going back to my Kleenex box, you know, when I was this little girl in the Kleenex box, there was not a radiant sun hiding under that dirty clothes. Instead of the forward dimension of my heart, it was pulled back in. And you know that because if there's fear or terror or whatever it might be, lack of confidence, that's when that part of your electromagnetic field is distorted. It's pulled out of shape. When you're feeling really open and confident and sure of yourself, then that's when your electromagnetic field is moving forward. So right now, you know, this electromagnetic field goes up and down and to the sides, and it also is inside of your heart. And you've had times, I know, when you must have felt, gosh, I'm getting so far behind. I'm just always running behind. Or I'm beside myself. I just don't know what to do. Well, what if that's your electromagnetic field? And what if humming, put your hand on your heart and try it with me now if you will, if this is of interest to you, and see if when you hum, just any old note, just hum, and see if you can make your hand vibrate. Or feel your heart beat. But the hum is really like, it's like a laser that just gets you right there. Okay. So did you feel your hands vibrate when you did that? So that is a great way for you when you're feeling really scattered or you're feeling out of balance for whatever reason. Just put your hand on your heart and hum, and let that bring you right back to here and now and the inner dimension of your heart. This inner dimension is where we know who we are and what we feel and think and what we want and need. So we all have our version of a Kleenex box. They may not all be that extreme, but we all have ways that we avoid life and avoid living life fully. So some of us deal with emotions by fleeing, some of us by fighting. But it's interesting to know that some people who go around with their electromagnetic field kind of balanced, they can just be in conflict, or they can be in community, and they just listen and they hold and they respond. I have such admiration for that. So that it's very wonderful to me to know that if there's stuff going on outside of me that I don't like, what all I need to do is come back home to me, come back to my heart, and balance that energy. So that helps me to remember also that no one's electromagnetic energy field is always balanced. But it's good to have some tools to bring you back. The key is to remember to remember. Heart rhythm meditation that I teach specializes in that with coherence and electromagnetic energy, but that's not the only way to do it. There are so many other spiritual practices that do it, babies that I already mentioned, family, friends, nature, sports, all those things bring you back into balance. And when you put your heart into rhythm and get coherence, and then you work with your electromagnetic field through that, then you set the tone for creating a community, a beloved community, through your heart. So changing the world and changing a community starts with you. It starts with your heart. That means to find a way to let this heart lead, and to let it lead in a way that's balanced and works for you. Once upon a time, there was this church that had fallen on really hard times. And whoever wrote this story must have been young, because he said in this story, is all they had in it was the pastor and 4 old people. They were all over 60. Okay, wow, this is really young, whoever did that. And so the pastor said, I think I need some help. So he climbed up in the mountains to go ask a retired bishop, and he talked to him about, what do I need to do to get people to come back to our church? Well, the bishop said, I really don't have any advice for you, but there's something I'd really like you to know. I'd really like you to know that someone in your church is the Messiah. Well, the minister was astounded by that. And so he went back to his congregation of just the 4 old people, and he said, he didn't have any advice, but he did say that one of us is the Messiah. And so that changed the way that the people began to interact with each other. They thought, wow, this could be the Messiah. I better figure out a way to talk to them. And then they started thinking, I could be the Messiah. I better start treating myself differently, as if I were. And so, little by little, the atmosphere in this church began to change. And when people came to visit, they felt it. Because they felt people with their electromagnetic energy field out with love for each other and respect and honoring. And so they created this space where they could hold it and it could be held. And the church began to grow and grow and grow. So this community did it unconsciously. They didn't know what they were doing. But if you want to learn some ways and some tools to consciously learn how to work with your heart, how to create coherence, and how to expand your electromagnetic energy field, then I really invite you to come to a class that's going to be beginning here at the church as part of religious education. It is every other Monday night, alternating with the poetry group, and I believe that our first meeting is September 14th at 7 o'clock. So Bob and I are smiling because of Labor Day. I'm supposed to be the 2nd and 4th, and the 14th is the 2nd, but I don't know. He and I need to figure this out, and there'll probably be an announcement of this, of which one it starts. It doesn't really matter to me. So I also do other healing modalities that work with your electromagnetic field. But there's one thing I wanted to say is that if you are interested in seeing how your heart works, what your heart rate variability is like, I was thinking as I wrote this talk, I thought, okay, I will give free sessions in that if you will donate the fee to the church. So I think some of you will find that this is really, you learn surprising things about yourself and about your way of living in the world and how you approach it. So it's been really precious to me to come and give this talk to you, to climb out of my Kleenex box and stand up and speak about something that's been so important to me and so precious, to find coherence with myself and to find a way to balance who I am and let my heart radiate like a sun. And sometimes when I do that, and I think some of you may also, I can identify with the quote that I put in the write-up about this talk. They say, there's a doorway from heart to heart. But what's the use of a door when there are no walls? And that's by Rumi. Thank you so much.